And welcome to the second video of this series of videos where I'm restoring the fuselage on my Pacer. So let's dig right in and continue the disassembly of the fuselage, so it can be fixed, whatever needs to be fixed, and then go and get bead-blasted and painted and primed and painted. Okay, let's go. Let's start the second video with a review of the control cables and how they work on a 1960 PA22. The rudder, straightforward, they are attached here to the rudder pedals here, and this return spring actually goes through the firewall and is then just secured behind the firewall, so give the rudder pedals the return on the pedal. Cables run straight forward, or straight to the back, I should say. Couple pulleys here where they run through. Another pulley is here, but straightforward. Fair lead here, fair lead here, and then this attaches to the left rudder horn, or whatever you call the thing. So rudder, like I said, straightforward, nothing really special about it. Now, talking about the next simple contraption here is the elevator. Of course, you move the yoke, goes through the floor, and then under the floor it's attached to a push-pull tube here. The push-pull tube goes behind the first part of the floorboard, basically under the pilot seat, under the bench, or if your mine has individual seats, and just moves the cable, either cable up or down, over these pulleys here again. Additional pulleys here just behind the luggage compartment, and then they go back here. With one of them, this would be the up elevator, go through a fair lead here. The lower or the down elevator is here. But after that it gets a little bit more interesting, because as you can see here, this is the down elevator. It's attached here to the elevator horn, but then there's also a spring with another cable that goes back here under the trim screw, and as you can see, it's attached to the trim screw. The same is true for the up elevator, which cable comes here and also goes into a little plate here. So when you pull the up elevator, there's also a spring here. So, and that is also attached to the trim screw. So when you move the trim in a PA22, the trim screw goes up and down, and I will show this here in a moment. And at the same time, it pulls also via the springs here. It also pulls the elevator. So the horizontal stabilizer leading edge moves up and down, but as you, let's say you apply up trim, so up trim, the screw goes down, and that applies, the screw goes up actually up trim, the screw goes down, which then moves the tail down, and then at the same time, while the the trim screw goes down, it also, via this spring mechanism here, pulls up elevator. So if you have a PA22, try that. Move the trim into the full up position. The leading edge moves down and the elevator moves up via this mechanism here. Same is true when you apply down trim for the nose down trim. The screw moves up, and at the same time when this moves up, it pulls on this spring here and moves the elevator down. Yeah? So I will show this here in just a second when I run the trim up and down. Yeah? So moving on to the ailerons, again, so of course you have the yoke, and the aileron is moved in via this chain mechanism here. So let me actually go around the airplane here a little bit. So you have these chains. So as you turn the yoke left and right, I can simulate it by pulling here a little bit. Okay, so this chain move up and down. They go through the floorboard, under the floorboard, and then they go left and right. And another pulley here, then on the, this would be on the passenger side. The cable runs up by the door post, up over the door, and then it runs back here. So on the rear door post, and as you can see, when you move the aileron left and right, the pulleys move, and then you have the junction in the center here, and there are on each side the cable spliced onto it, which go through fairleads, and then they connect to the aileron in the wing. And then there is a balancing cable here that also is connected in the wing. It's just a straight piece of cable that goes straight through and then is connected on each wing as for the balancing. The interesting part about this setup is here on the cable, the aileron cable, one goes through the pulley to the center, but there's another cable that is spliced in that actually goes to the back of the fuselage, and it goes all the way back behind the luggage compartment. And then you see here there's actually two, I'm not quite sure what this spring is for here. I have no idea. Maybe one of you can answer that. But at the bottom of the fuselage, these are connected via springs. So, and that gives this feeling when you turn the ailerons. My mechanic actually had commented on that before. He thought that the aileron feel heavy, and this is really a centering mechanism. So you can see here, I move the aileron, even though nothing is attached now. I move the yoke, and it goes center just by itself, and that is because of this mechanism all the way in the back. I'm not sure how well the camera will capture this, but basically if you turn the ailerons, the springs will do its job in the back and then center your ailerons. So that is the interesting part about the ailerons. The flaps, on the other hand, again, pretty straightforward again. Flap connected just the cable, one cable here that goes again under the pilot seat, and also goes to the back here, and there's a turnbuckle where you can make some adjustment, and basically just go around the luggage compartment, back over the luggage compartment, and then it goes in here. It's spliced again from 1 into 2 cables, left flap, right flap, of course, and here are the pulleys, and then they just basically just go through here and grab the right cable, and then gets attached to the wing. So that is the basic flight controls: rudder, elevator, and aileron. So the trim system is a whole nother contraption. Let's talk about that. So this is actually how the trim system looks above your headliner. Couple pulleys, a tension spring here, and then here this is a piano wire that is attached to the trim tab. So as you move the trim, so you turn the cables for the jack screw to go up and down, and I will show that in a minute here how that works. And then of course, if you watch the trim tab, it also moves back and forth at the same time. So that is how it operates here in the front. And of course, the reason why I take all these videos is also because I need to remember how to put this all back together, because as you can see, this tension wire here, or this tension cable, comes off here on the lower pulley but goes onto the upper pulley, and I still have to figure out where they cross here. So I'll do that later when I start taking this apart. But I think that is a very important thing to watch, that this tension cable goes into the lower pulley here, upper pulley over here. That is interesting. So anyway, I figured that out later when I start taking it apart. Okay, so in the back of the airplane, so first of all, here's the piano wire. This piano wire here, and that just goes over this pulley here and then connects to the jack screw here. So when the jack screw moves up and down, it pulls your trim indicator back and forth. So the trim cable, here it's actually, it shows how they actually move the cable from one pulley to another. So when I look forward on the airplane, so the left pulley or the left cable goes on the lower pulley, runs around on the lower pulley, comes to this pulley here, and then goes around and then switches to the upper pulley, and then goes around the upper pulley and then back to the front. So I think that is already a pretty good way to describe how this works. So, and it's also good for me to know. I take some more pictures here, because at one point I have to put this all together again. So that will be very interesting. And there's also, I just noticed, so here is a piano cable, but then at this, here at this point, it goes into what looks like a fishing line. So, and then it's a fishing line running and being attached to the trim tab. So let me set up my tripod here, and we can see how this trim mechanism moves up and down while I'm filming it, and operates the system inside of the airplane. So the head scratch of today was how to get the trim crank handle off, and I had to really look hard. I expected some kind of a clip, if you often have on door handles on antique cars, but here there's a hole in the shaft for the crank handle, and then the crank handle itself. There's a spring and a plastic cup here, so you have to push this cup up to see the hole here, and that's where the pin is. So and we have to use like a punch to drive it out. So that was my head scratcher of the day. Well, I'm spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to get the trim system apart, and who would have thought that in this slot up here is a pin that is bent like this, and you can see you have to drive it out, and then this pin comes loose. It took me time to figure this one out. I wonder who gets ideas like this. Of course, it will be interesting to also get this pin back in there. So the back of the fuselage is pretty much done, except before I give it to the media blasting, I'm gonna take all these stringers off here. They're just aluminum, so they don't need to be blasted or even painted. So I just gonna take them off, but other than that, and then here's like door frame sheet metal that I still have to take off, but other than that, everything is off the back. There's still the two pitot ports here, so I still have to take the pitot system out. So now I'm moving on to back to the front of the airplane. So next is taking the rudder pedals off. That should be pretty straightforward. Looks like they're just bolted here to the floorboard. So I take, but well, I probably have to take the fuel lines off quick. That shouldn't be too much of an issue. Famous last words. But just take the fuel lines off here that are in the way. Then I can take the rudder pedals off, and then the control column has to come out, because with that prevents me right now, these two things prevent me to actually take the last floorboard out, and then I can take the floorboard out. And then the big thing is the instrument panel, making sense of all this wiring and see how I get that out. And well, I think another week and I should be ready to have the airframe all bare bones. And let's start then fixing what needs to be fixed, and then get it media blasted and painted. So let's take the rudder pedals off. Before I take the fuel lines off, something specific about just my airplane. This is how the fuel lines actually go into the fuel valve on the left kick panel by the knee of the pilot. And you can see, so this is the line that goes to the fuel strainer here. This line here, this is the inlet for my main tank, and you can see the two lines, the one from the back of the tank and the front of the tank, they join here and then go into the valve. And this line here is for my auxiliary tank. So this is going to be different than probably most other airplanes out there. But on my specific airplane, I have 2 tanks per wing. So this is for the main, this is the auxiliary tank, and this is going to the front of the engine. And then I have another fuel selector valve under the instrument panel on the co-pilot side. And again, it's very specific for my airplane. Again, the bottom here goes to the front of the engine. This one here, so that comes here, and then is here. It is there's a T in it. So this comes from the front of the main tank, and then we all know on the PA22 the rear of the right main runs all the way up here, and then down here runs under the floorboard, where there usually is a, oops, it's going to be here, where there usually is a another fuel drain, and then I already took the line out, would run under the door, up the post here, and actually comes out here, but I already took that off. So, but again, for me, very specific on my airplane, I have this second fuel valve under the instrument panel to control my right wing, while the one on the left, the original, controls my left wing. So a little bit different on mine than on probably most other airplanes. So in the case if you wonder how a parking brake works on, at least on this Univair tail wheel conversion. So here's a valve attached to the bottom of the left cylinder here, and actually also on the bottom of the right cylinder. So both cylinders have this little valve, and when you push the brake pedal, you build up the pressure in the system, and then by pulling the brake handle on the instrument panel, and I will try to do that here while I hold the camera with the other hand. You see, hopefully, that both, both valves now closed. Yeah, so here as well as there, and that's how you hold the parking brake. And then when you release, it will release the pressure, and you can taxi again. So here again. So you build pressure by pumping the brake and pull the lever. Okay. So, and of course there's one on each side, so that both brakes, both sides are the parking brake activated. So that's how it works on the Univair conversion. We are at the end of the second video. Made good progress taking the Pacer apart. So stay tuned for the rest of taking it apart, and then I do a good inspection of the frame.